Good evening all, I'm Aditya Patwardhan with the Thursday night edition of South Asian News. Welcome to Vision of Asia, Voice of Our Community. We are coming to you from our studio in New York City. Here's what's happening tonight in the coronavirus pandemic. More than 24 million cases of the coronavirus in the world tonight, with at least 822,000 deaths. The US deaths from the novel coronavirus has now topped 180,000 after a surge of new cases in June and July, especially in hotspots like California, Florida, and Texas. We are looking at a total of nearly 5.9 million cases here in the US. There are signs of an improving outlook. However, while US metrics on cases, deaths, hospitalizations, and positivity rates are all heading downward, health experts fear there could be another surge as schools reopen and colder weather forces more gatherings indoors. Cases are rising now in states Illinois, North Dakota, and South Dakota, along with Iowa and Minnesota. The World Health Organization is saying that the resources permitting, people exposed to the novel coronavirus should continue to get tested even if they do not show immediate symptoms of the infection. Health experts are again reminding everyone on practicing social distancing, washing hands, and masking up. En masse, the Democratic presidential candidate and former Vice President Joe Biden has called for a national mask mandate starting immediately. On Hurricane Laura now, it made a landfall early today in southwestern Louisiana as one of the most powerful storms to hit the state at Category 4, but has since weakened to a Category 2 with winds of 110 miles per hour. Here's to hoping for everyone's safety in the coast, where there is already a widespread damage along with loss of power for more than 800,000 customers. And on the sad case of Jacob Blake, who was shot in Wisconsin by the police officer with the video going viral, protests and demonstrations continue nationwide demanding an end to systemic racism. Vice presidential nominee Senator Kamala Harris is calling for an end to police shootings in the U.S. and said that the video of Jacob Blake being shot was sickening to watch. We want to reach out to all community leaders, advocates, and executives on their comments on systemic racism in the U.S. and the case of Jacob Blake. Email us on events@itvgold.com with your opinions. With that, it's now time to begin this episode of South Asian News with much insight on the ongoings of the international film industry along with South Asian culture. Here are the headlines. The New Mutants virtual press junket featuring writer-director Josh Boone and cast California. Transference and psychological thriller featuring director Aditya Patwardhan streaming on Amazon Prime US. The Culture Tree and Consul General of India commemorates Raksha Bandhan 2020 in New York. A lot more on the other side of the break. Stay with us in Vision of Asia, Voice of the Community. We'll be back shortly. And welcome again. I'm Aditya Patwardhan and this is Vision of Asia South Asian News segment. The New Mutants movie is headed for theaters, both traditional and drive-in, tomorrow, Friday, August 28th. Based on Marvel Comics, the American horror film in the superhero genre is being presented by 20th Century Studios in association with Marvel Entertainment, directed and written by Josh Boone. The film features an ensemble of young actors including Maisie Williams, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Heaton, Alice Braga, Henry Zaga, and Blue Hunt. In the New Mutants, a group of 5 young mutants held in a secret facility fight to save themselves, and the question is, why are they being held captive and who is trying to destroy them? The movie is intended to be the last installment of the X-Men series and recently held a virtual press junket featuring the cast and crew of the New Mutants, describing their experience and take on the action-fueled film. Here are the highlights from the virtual press junket.
We are going to tell you about our new movie, The New Mutants, in just 60 seconds.
Ready? Go.
I play Danny, a young mutant who wakes up in a sketchy medical facility run by Dr. Reyes.
You're not alone, Danny.
Danny meets the other young mutants being monitored there. Rain, Ileana,
Roberto. And Sam.
Dr. Reyes wants to help them understand their new powers.
So they have therapy sessions to discuss their haunted pasts.
What if I just want to go home? Sam, you remember what happened?
Yep, therapy. But then things get weird.
And they discover that they can't leave.
This isn't a hospital. It's a cage.
And as if being trapped in a creepy hospital isn't horrifying enough.
They have to face their fear when a sinister force invades. They start to question Dr. Ray's motives.
You can leave when I say so.
We're trapped in here with demons and you want us to stay trapped!
It only gets worse from there. Do they get answers?
Go see the New Mutants to find out.
Get tickets now.
Beyond the horror elements, this movie deals with these young mutants with burgeoning abilities, and they can be insecure and angsty and growing pains and all that. So, everything that young people deal with. So how do you think younger audiences will resonate with your characters? And did tapping back into your teenage self help with the creation of your character? Anya?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I think any opportunity to go back to teenagedom is not necessarily the most fun experience, but you definitely learn a lot about yourself afterwards. It's interesting because I think we all came into this knowing that whilst we were making a superhero movie, we weren't really making a superhero movie. We were making a film about people who were having a tough time understanding themselves and figuring out their place in the world. And so to make it a bit more cinematic, we added powers, but I do think any teenager that's going through, as you said, the growing pains, trying to understand where you fit in, you're no longer a child, but like, what is this weird adult world? I think they'll definitely connect with it. And then we have powers, which is really cool. So,
Yeah. I would say too, is really made for teenagers who are outsiders, people who feel out of place, and who are going through a tough time in general. I sort of always say I make couch movies, which are like, when I was a teenager and I was really depressed, I'd have like a certain movie I'd pop on and go lay on the couch and make me feel better. Yeah. So it's like these kind of movies are those kind of movies where hopefully they'll be your friend.
What was your movie?
Oh, sorry, you go.
No.
That's embarrassing, and I'm not gonna. There are always movies with romance in them, and romantic comedies or things like that. I'm not gonna admit to any of them.
Annie, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that actually the setting really helped with that, because it did feel like we were kind of in a high school / college experience where we were all going to the same place every single day and then going back to like dorms. So it did feel like
it was like a college experience, but where the set that you were on, somebody had hung themselves there maybe 40 years before.
To be fair, I've shot in too many like abandoned mental hospitals. I'm like really way too chill about the whole situation. But,
But you guys mentioned that you were kind of holed up in this hotel filming. When you think back on that experience of all that time you spent together, what sticks out to you most when you think about like your downtime on set? Charlie?
Yeah, really togetherness. I mean, you have no choice but to, hang out with the people to work with. And it's a long period of time as well. I mean, we were there, I think it was like 3 months, all in all. And there is really nothing, I mean, sorry, Norwood, but there's nothing a lot to do in Norwood.
Not a lot to do there.
Yeah, but
I was entertained though, to be fair.
But yeah, I mean, just
had activities.
To go tie in with the film, it really made us bond, as people, like, and learn about each other like these characters do. So kind of, it was like life was meeting art in the same moment.
This isn't a hospital, it's a cage.
And I mean, the movie's very much like, Blue comes to this institution and sort of makes everybody through her powers open up. So I guess like that's sort of the same thing that happened when we made it and everybody became friends and all that.
What did you guys do? Like, what was your favorite downtime activity?
When we all got in the car when Charlie was driving the 5 of us, and
last time Charlie drove the car.
One time.
I had just learned to drive. I literally just got my license.
And he's British. You were driving along the side.
I'd never driven at night before. You do all your lessons in the day, and we were driving back. I decided to take everyone to the cinema and try out my driving. And I was driving at night, and I was like, Henry, man, the lights of the car aren't on.
The lights
are on. I was like, I can't see anything.
The storm started like just forming on top of us, like like Anya's limbo or something. I'm like,
did I make up the fact that we went to see Baby Driver on the day
No,
that
you went
drove us?
Yeah.
We went to watch a race movie, and then Charlie couldn't switch on the lights of his car. Okay.
Yeah.
You did great, babe.
I did.
You did great.
We're very moral support, I feel like.
We have now more highlights from the virtual Raksha Bandhan 2020 event presented by the Culture Tree in collaboration with the Consulate General of India, New York. Promoting cultural literacy and connection to one's own heritage, the virtual event was a commemoration of the popular occasion of Raksha Bandhan, a festival which celebrates the bond between siblings, emphasizing family and Indian culture. With that, the Culture Tree's presentation saw cultural icons who shared stories of the festival, including some ancient mythological stories. The participants included New York Times bestseller, Grammy-winning author Kabir Sehgal, along with his mother Surishta Sehgal, award-winning author Bhakti Mathur, puppeteer Magical Whispers, and Madhuri Kale. Here are more highlights from Raksha Bandhan 2020.
We will start with a short poem or a story. Surishta, how would you explain your book, Thread of Love? Is it a poem? Is it a story?
It depends on how you see it. It's a story, but it can also be a poem, very much felt in the heart, and just enclosing all the goodness around the world with a circle, which is, of course, the thread of love. So,
tell us how you celebrate Raksha Bandhan. If there are any special things you do, and how you celebrate it. I think it was on Monday.
Right.
It in your household.
Well, it's we've done this for many years now. I do have a daughter, and so it's kind of fun to see both of them. And actually, I really liked what was said about the son. Actually, the daughter saying to the son that I can protect you too, and that was very nice. But yes, it's I try to do something traditional, like a little puja, and just making sure that there is something sweet and that Kabir has something for Kashi. But the most important thing, that there is a lot of embrace and hugging and joyful thinking about what we did last year and what we have done since the last Rakhi. And then also when we have other family members and friends, you tie the Rakhi even, on their hands. And when I have done this in classrooms, simply they say they don't have any thread. I said, you have yarn. So we just pull the yarn out and all the kids tie the yarn around. The most fundamental thing to me is that there is something very unique in all of us and something very common. And that common bond is so important, and that is love. And so, just celebrate like that in how you view the other person.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So if you can I'm going to play the video for Thread of Love. If you can introduce that video a little bit and tell us about the book.
Well, the book is about the two siblings, and then there's a third one. That is put there for the dramatic aspect in illustrations, from illustrations perspective. But the common thing is that the brother is sleeping, like Feroz Jacquard is the theme. We thought that would be fun because people know the song, and that is an example of focusing on similarity. So kids are familiar with something and fun, and they get the information in that framework of fun. So the brother is sleeping, and the sister comes, and they make the Rakhi together. She makes it with the younger sister.
I will start making you a Rakhi, thread of love, thread of love. Cut, chop, chop, cut, chop, chop, carefully, carefully. Weave the threads together, weave the threads together. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Sparkle, glitter, sparkle, glitter. Sequins glow, sequins glow. Don't forget the tassel, don't forget the tassel. Swish, 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 swish. Here's your Rakhi, here's I will tie. Hope you keep it always, hope you keep it always. Thread of love, thread of love. Brothers, sisters, cousins too, cousins too. Family, friends, and neighbors, family, friends, and neighbors. Thread of love.
It's time for another short break. Stay with us in Vision of Asia, Voice of the Community. We'll be right back. And welcome back. This is Vision of Asia, the South Asian news segment, and I am Aditya Lamba. We have now an exclusive conversation with Indian director Aditya Patwardhan on his new feature film, Transference. The psychological thriller and horror film is about the central character, Camille, a well-put-together trauma therapist who is haunted by memories from the past that threatens to tear her world apart until she finds the courage to face her demons. The movie tackles the difficult subject of recovering from childhood sexual abuse with the theme that healing comes through forgiveness. The subject of childhood sexual abuse had plagued societies across the world and often happens when no one expects, and the victims and their stories go unnoticed and shamed. Transference addresses the social taboo and explores the life of a victim in a heart-wrenching thriller which is now streaming on Amazon Prime US. Director Aditya Patwardhan talked wholeheartedly on transference and the need for addressing incidents of sexual abuse. Here is a segment of the interview with Aditya Patwardhan. Your new movie has been released on Amazon Prime. Congratulations. Transference is the name. It's a new psychological thriller. Big moment for you. How are you feeling about that?
It feels great. It feels great to have the movie out on that platform. And it's out of the 3 features that are coming out that I've directed, this is the first one that's completely American. So that's also another thing that I'm happy about. We were planning a theatrical release, but because of the entire COVID crisis, we thought instead of going the theater way, we should try to release it with Amazon.
Whose house is this? It's your grandparents'. My dad just died.
You sure you want to do this?
Let's get it over with.
Sadie? There's a monster under the bed.
Told you not to wander.
Look what I found. Piper is afraid of the dark.
How did you know what her name was?
She told me.
Time for bed.
But the story's not over.
Listen to my last words, beloved, said the mother. Keep the doll with you at all times.
You're hungover? Are you sure you're in the right headspace?
I am not depressed.
Feed her when she's hungry.
That is not what I'm saying. Maybe we should get you back on the meds until we find someone you can talk to.
You have to stay very quiet or he's going to find you.
Let her guide you when you feel lost.
Clearly, you're not coping well. Is there anyone you can talk to?
Tell her all your secrets. She'll keep them safe.
Sadie, what did you do? This isn't real. Piper's not real.
Imaginary friends? She's a sensitive kid. You haven't even been acting like yourself lately.
The mother's breath rushed out from between her lips.
Stay away from me! Stay away from my daughter!
And her eyes fell closed forevermore.
Do you think that's something that a lot of movies we're going to see that with, where it's going to be streaming on online platforms more because of the COVID-19 situation?
Yes, that's definitely happening with many, especially independent movies like mine, because even if the theaters open, there will be a sense of suspicion that people won't go right away. Yeah. So the movies that will release first would be the big movies, that come from Warner Brothers or studios like that. So especially the independent movies, they would directly go for platforms like Amazon or Netflix.
Perfect. Let's dig right into it, Aditya. I have a lot of questions about the movie. First of all, tell us about Transference. What is the story about? And I know it's female-oriented, it's female-centered, and it discusses a very, very important issue. So I would love for you to highlight what the movie is about.
So in a sense, the protagonist of the movie, and again, this is something that gets revealed at the end of the movie, so I'm trying to find the right balance of how much I should say and how much I should hold back. But in a sense, the protagonist of the movie has undergone sexual abuse in her past, in her childhood, and it's how those dark memories has affected her psyche and how they are manifesting in her current life. When she's in her late 30s, she already has a good family for herself, but those horrors of her past, they end up affecting even her present. And if she doesn't deal with them right away, there is a very good chance that it'll leak over to her children and her family, her husband, and the violence that happened with her stays on within her timeline. So the film deals with that how she, as a victim, can find a way to cope up with what she went through, because it's a subject that largely goes unaddressed. It happens in places you wouldn't expect. It is much more often than it is told to, and there's a hush hush mentality around this within all societies, not just it's set in America, but it's anywhere in the world. So a person who has gone through that, what are the side effects that this has, and at the end, how the victim can come out of it by confronting their own past horrors. That's what the film is about. And though it starts off as a horror psychological thriller, it finishes off on a note where it's about reconciliation with your own identity.
Aditya, in the light of the Me Too movement, especially when we're looking at sexual abuse, childhood abuse, how was the process of conceptualizing this movie and executing it? What did it require out of you as a director?
That's a good question. It took me a long time to understand the mindset of the victim, because there's and that doesn't mean that I didn't understand it before. Like, obviously I did empathize with everything that was going on with the Me Too movement and the stories that you hear, but that one is you hearing about it on the news, and then one is trying to delve into the mindset of the victim itself, because once I'm directing it, I need to feel exactly how the victim would feel. I need to feel what she would go through to make my film real, to make it honest for the audience. So that process took the longest time to realize how the amount of cases that happen, what is the outcome of most of those cases, what do the children who undergo such a thing in the past, how do they suffer once they are grown-ups, once they're in their 30s or in their 40s, once they have families. So the hard part was doing that research and almost trying to make myself feel as if I'm in their shoes, and then thinking of directing this movie.
Wow, quite a process right there. How did you make sure that there was no victim shaming done in the movie? I'm sure that must have been a huge part of making this movie and making sure that that's not shown, if I'm getting you right.
Yes. That was, it was, in every line of the script or the finale of the movie, when you get the conclusion, one of the biggest concerns we had was to never sound as if the victim is wrong or there's any kind of victim shaming or, oh, you should have gotten out of it. There was nothing of that sort. So during the scripting, while rehearsals and while filming and even editing, we were making sure that nowhere there is a message of victim shaming, even a hint of it. Because sometimes it might happen and we won't notice it, in the writings or in the editing itself. But for someone third party to be watching the movie, they would see it that way. So I had to be really careful that there's no kind of victim shaming happening, and any kind of shame that needs to be put, or any kind of blame that needs to be put, other than the perpetrator itself, is the society around these people who try to shove these incidents away or try to not speak about it, especially if they're happening, especially if such an incident happened with someone in close proximity, within friends or within family. Society tries to hush it up, like, oh, no, we don't do this. And especially in the middle class, upper middle class, you try to not reveal these dark secrets or dark things that happen. So I had to make sure that any kind of shaming or blame that was to happen, that should go towards the people around these incidents, not the victims involved.
And that is all for tonight's show. Remember to send us your suggestions and get your voices and organizations on our show. Email us on events@itvgold.com or follow us on Facebook at itvgold. You can also now subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch many of our popular shows for free. Thank you for joining us tonight from Queens, New York. This is Vision of Asia, and I am Aditya Lamba. Take care and be well.